This is another one of my videos on my long essay, Sociological Theories Regarding the Emergence and Development of New Religious Movements, this one dealing with ideological contexts. So in previous videos I've talked about psychological and physiological explanations for the emergence of new religious movements, particularly deprivation theories, although I've noted that although the concept of deprivation does seem relevant, it's very difficult to operationalize in relationship to the study of religious movements. Then we moved on to talk about crisis theories of the emergence of religious movements. We've talked about crises of survival, crises of social potency and of meaning and psychic fulfillment, and now I want to say a few words about ideological contexts for such crises. So, crises of meaning do not occur in a symbolic vacuum. Systems of religious belief and practice which embody symbolic meanings have a traditional reality which pre-exists the individual human subject who encounters them. Such traditional reality imposes its own constraints. Even the religiously creative individual innovates strictly within a given framework. Insofar as there are nearly always some ideological virtuosi within any institutionalized framework of knowledge, such individuals being concerned to reflect upon the existing body of knowledge with an interest in the development of their own human understanding, distinct patterns of change in intellectual understanding are likely to emerge. The irregularity of such changes in the area of science led Thomas Kuhn to propose a distinct succession of scientific revolutions. Such revolutions were consequent upon periods of disruption to the orderly conduct of normal science caused by the accumulation of anomalies, which could not be explained by reference to the existing disciplinary matrix. If during this period of crisis a new matrix or paradigm emerged, which was empirically successful in explaining these anomalies, then the previous paradigm was displaced. Copernican astronomy ousted that of Ptolemy, Einsteinian physics ousted that of Newton, and so on. Whilst Kuhn's observation that science doesn't consist of cumulative progress and that scientists fight emotionally charged battles over rival paradigms has found ready acceptance, other elements of his account have come in for extensive criticism. In a particularly fruitful response to Kuhn's proposal, Larry Laudan has focused attention on the problem-solving effectiveness of rival research traditions. Denying Kuhn's assertion of paradigmatic hegemony and resultant crises, Laudan has argued that science is always necessarily immature, there being a perennial coexistence of conflicting traditions of research. Insofar as there is progress, it is based on the recognition of research problems, rational choice between competing theories at any given time, consisting in choosing that theory which provides the most adequate solution to the empirical and conceptual problems currently recognized as important within that context. These ideas are readily transferable to at least some areas of religious thinking, as Laudan has himself suggested with regard to theodicy and experiential belief. Given the existence of rival theological research traditions, the more progressive of these will be those which are more adequate in the explanation of theological problems. As in science, there is no necessity that individuals make a rational choice between rival traditions. But if the choice is socially available to them, then cognitive factors are very likely to enter into the choice, whether it be in terms of making the more rational choice or in constructing cognitive defense mechanisms in order to attempt to defend established belief. Laudan's argument is complementary to that advanced by Berger and Luckman regarding the plausibility of various forms of religious belief. According to this account, the plausibility of religious beliefs is sustained, for most people, by social consensus and control, a situation which is often sustained, in turn, by state-maintained ideological monopolies. In the absence of such monopolies, the authority of specific religious traditions declines with the appearance of competing reality experts and the consequent questioning of traditional beliefs. If the newly perceived reality of experience fails to support conditional beliefs, they might be abandoned, but they might also be clung to with greater force by neo-traditionalists who huddled together for mutual cognitive support in the face of a disbelieving outside world. This is an idea, I should say, that has been developed more by Berger in his book Heretical Imperative, about which I've made a set of videos. Cognitive and social pressures, in other words, interact, and both may engender religious change. The prophetic disconfirmation, famously recorded in the Fessinger study, represents merely an extreme instance of a more general phenomenon. Those who meet the radical disconfirmation of their expectations in the context of mutual social support are able to restructure their beliefs in a neo-traditionalist fashion. Those who lack such support simply abandon their faith. Even those who were not rationalizing ideological virtuosi might be faced with problems of plausibility, the plausibility of their beliefs, and the resulting cognitive strain. Religious thinking is often distinguished from that of science by the greater ambiguity and vagueness of its ideas, and by the more conservative approach to traditional knowledge displayed by its institutional authorities. The polyvalent and paradoxical nature of religious symbols, of course, may be immensely functional to their survival, permitting them to satisfy divergent religious needs in complex and changing societies. Principles that always apply are necessarily elastic in interpretation. In this vein, a single religious system may even incorporate different soteriologies, as per excellence in Buddhism, or revel in paradox, as in certain antinomian sects. Polyvalent symbols may also engender internal religious tensions, however, especially when an orthodox monopoly is sought. In religious monotheism, for example, there's a clear dialectical tension between notions of divine transcendence and the immanence, which has found repeated expressions in Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. Again, dialectics between Bhaktic faith, devotion and love, and Gnostic knowledge and works, between religion as living personal experience and as ritual or ceremony, or between the diversity and unity or openness and authenticity of a religious tradition, have been identified. Necessarily, such tensions require social location or their expression, but the tensions of themselves constitute part of the received tradition. Even when an orthodoxy is maintained, submerged esoteric or emergent religious culture may survive, coexisting with the dominant culture and providing a means of cultural leverage against the institutionalized paradigm during crucial periods of social change. Or again, even within the dominant religious culture, particular alternative religious traditions may find a certain acceptance, as for example with the continuing tradition of pietism in Christianity. As to actual changes in plausibility structures, perhaps the most evident attends the trauma experienced by small localized societies when they're subordinated and incorporated by larger and more complex societies. Well beyond the experience of any social pressures, the members of such societies are likely to undergo considerable cognitive strain as the mere existence of a vast, new and complex world overwhelms the limited conceptions of their traditional worldview. Accordingly, particularistic religious traditions have tended everywhere to be absorbed by the major universalistic ones. We'll talk about plausibility challenges in modern societies in more detail in the next video. So many thanks to you for listening, and particular thanks to my patrons for their kind support and encouragement, without which I wouldn't be able to make these videos. As always, you're very welcome to support my channel. Like, comment and share on the videos, if you will. Subscribe if you want to be notified of future videos. Ring the bell button. Patreon and PayPal links below if you want to provide practical support. And next week we'll talk about secularization and modernization. Have a good day. Oh, and again, apologies for not including the references to the various authors I'm citing in the essay. My papers are still in boxes, so I can't access the bibliography for this essay.